Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are at. This is Adrienne Montgomery. I'm with ERP VAR, and today we're going to be talking about 12 ways to automate Dynamics GP sales order processing and get paid faster. But I'd like to run through a couple housekeeping items before we get started. There is a couple buttons on the webinar pane right next to your name. There's a hand, if you can see, and there is a question mark. If you should have a question throughout the presentation, we just encourage you to click on that question mark button, and a dialog box will open up where you can text in your question. And at the end of the webinar, we'll be reading off those questions so that the presenters may answer. And we're really excited today to have 3 industry leaders for GP, Dynamics GP, with us. We have Avalara, StarShip, and Anytime Collect, and 3 very experienced presenters to talk about how automating the sales order processing in GP will save you time, and then also you'll be able to collect on those invoices much faster with the Anytime Collect. So let's get started here. So Avalara has been around for a very long time. They offer sales tax compliance automation. So it saves a ton of time, it reduces errors, and reduces the need for duplicate data entry when you're processing sales tax information. And it also ensures that you're compliant. StarShip is a shipping automation tool. It automates the shipping process out of Dynamics GP, and it takes the rules of the shipment. It considers what all the parameters around the shipment and how to best deliver that shipment based on cost, based on delivery time. So it takes all the information in GP and it automates that. Anytime Collect is an industry leader for collections applications. They automate the collection process for Dynamics GP, and we'll go through all the ins and outs of collections as Jim takes us through that. And so here's the workflow we're going to be reviewing. The sales order is processed in Dynamics GP. It goes to Avalara for sales tax compliance, and then the sales order is updated in Dynamics GP, and then it's pushed over to StarShip for automated shipping, and then invoice processing, and then Anytime Collect picks it up from there to automate the collections process. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to John to start it off with Avalara. Thank you so much, John.
Before we hopped on the call with all of you today, Adrienne said, let's get this party started, and nothing starts a party quite like sales tax. So I'm sure a bunch of the people attending today's call spent most of their weekend reading up on the new sales tax rules and regs that are out there for the states you guys have tax liabilities in. It's a very captivating topic. But in all seriousness, let's hang out today. Avalara offers many features that truly streamline those processes when we look at sales tax compliance. So before I hop into the live walkthrough, let me just touch on how the service works. So Avalara integrates into the different Dynamics ERP systems, and this integration triggers the ERP system to call out to our web service. So upon that call out, our web service is going to make a couple of decisions initially, which allows us to perform the different sales tax calculations that are needed. So first is Nexus or tax liability. If you guys don't have Nexus, that's great. We're just going to pump in a $0 tax call. If you do have Nexus or tax liability, we then look at the customer's exemption status. So the service does this by finding out if the customer has an active and valid exemption certificate on file. And if they do, once again, that's great. We're going to pump in a $0 tax call. So that's really where we help a lot of customers with is the exemption certificate management. And that's through one of our tools called Cert Capture. It's another solution that we offer. And we determine and manage the exemption certificates for your customers in a digital format. So we can look at the different exemption status for states, the customer's items, the different time periods that that particular customer is exempt for. So I know that we're not going to show that specifically today, but I urge everybody on the call that deals with exemption certificates to reach out and do a quick review to see if the solution would be appropriate for your guys' business. So for today's purposes, let's assume that you guys do have Nexus and there is not an exemption certificate on file. So we're going to look at three main functions in GP. Number one, the AvaTax is the tax schedule ID. Number two, the address validation feature. And number three, we'll walk through a sales transaction entry and show you how tax is calculated. And the reason why we highlight these specific functions is so that we can show you guys that the current workflow will not change. If anything, it's going to become a little bit easier. So let's take a look at the tax schedule ID. Probably sounds familiar to you guys if you're on the call today and deal with sales tax. You guys have to research tax rates. You have to look up product taxability. You're going to have to come in and you're going to update all those different tax tables that are in your system. And then you obviously have to pick that correct tax table and apply it to the customer in question. When the AvaTax solution is entered in to the ERP system, every tax schedule ID will show as AvaTax. And you never have to worry about any of those manual processes again, which really saves a lot of time and avoids a lot of the human error associated with updating those tables. So second, let's take a look at the address validation feature. Everyone's human. We've all entered in addresses incorrectly. With today's new rules and regulations that UPS and FedEx have, a lot of our customers are receiving fines or penalties for shipments that aren't making it to their destination or sent back to the warehouse. So you can see I'm taking out some pretty pertinent information in regards to the address in question for Aaron Fitz Electrical. And we use the address validation tool to put that address in US postal formatted settings. And what that does is it allows our system to drill down with longitude and latitude coordinates to rooftop level accuracy. And we're actually able to nail down into the jurisdiction that these locations are falling into. Because as many of you know, a zip +4 is going to get you close. But with the specialty and local jurisdictions that are out there, the zip +4 isn't always appropriate, especially when we look at a handful of states out there that are very complex. So we'll move over to the sales transaction entry. We've got the information pulled up. I just want to show you guys how easy it is. So now that the AvaTax solution's been integrated into GP, we can come in and change the items to some different quantities. And all we have to do is go up, we can calculate the tax, and you'll see down in this section, just with the click of a button, it triggers the call out to the web service, and the correct tax is plugged in based off of that information that was sent over to our web service. If there's an error made, all we have to do is change that quantity and come back to calculate that tax. So you guys can see it's very quick. It's a streamlined process. You don't have to worry about what's going on. Everything in the back end is updated by people that work at Avalara. We're always up to date on the tax rules and regulations that are out there, so you don't have to worry about focusing on non-revenue generating activities. And we typically see a quick return on investment when we look at the implementation of our solutions. And one thing that I'll also touch on is with the transactional data that's pushed over from GP to our admin console, we're able to capture all the necessary information to take over the returns process for our customers. So what that means is we're able to take a one-time draw similar to what you would see with your payroll taxes, and then we divvy up those funds and report them and remit them back to the appropriate parties in a timely fashion. So that saves a lot of time and effort in-house to outsource that to Avalara. So we looked at those three main functions. I hope that you guys would agree that that sort of simplifies the process. It really removes a lot of the human error that can be involved with updating those tables and applying them to the different customers that you guys have. And if anybody has any questions, I certainly hope that you guys reach out to us and learn a little bit about the solutions that we have to offer. So for me, that is it. Adrian, if you want us to pass it over, I appreciate the time.
So Chris, I believe you have the controls now.
Okay, great. Thanks, John. Thanks, Adrian. And thanks to everybody for attending today. I'm going to take you through a brief demo on StarShip and talk a little bit about how we can automate the shipping process for both your parcel and LTL type of shipments with Dynamics GP. We'll take you through that and look at the workflow and also some of the data that we push back into GP as well. So with GP, we typically work off of the documents inside of sales order processing, your orders, quotes, fulfillment orders, invoices, at whatever stage that is at. And we use the document ID to retrieve that information. So if you have a barcode on your pick sheet or your printout of the sales order, you can scan that into this field here on the left-hand side of the screen, or you can also enter that in manually, typing on the keyboard. There's also a browse screen here where you can take a look at all of your pending transactions and pick and choose which ones you want to ship against. There's some additional sorts in here that you can narrow down the view based on which transactions you want to look at. So we'll go ahead and pick an invoice here. You can also multi-select here if you want to do some batch processing and bring in multiple orders at the same time. And as a second layer of protection with the address validation that's provided by Avalara, StarShip can also augment that by performing address validation at the point that you retrieve the shipping data from the sales order. So you'll notice here a little green checkbox next to the address. With that, we'll look at the ship to address either at the order header level or the line item level in GP. You can set that as a preference, and you'll see whether or not it's a valid address here. We'll look at the city, state, and zip. We can add the zip+4 postal formatting if you choose that as a preference, the street address, the suite, the apartment number, and then the zone if it's a residential address, a rural area, or a commercial address. And then StarShip will catch that and apply any of the additional surcharges that may be tacked on by the carrier. So you're capturing that freight information up front when you start the shipping process, and then you can include those charges with any of the freight that you might write back to the sales transaction. Over here on the left, you also have kind of a snapshot of some of the order data. You have the return address, or what we call them senders in StarShip. So you can have multiple accounts, different companies that you ship on behalf of, or different business units within the organization, as well as multiple accounts for all of your various carriers that you ship with, so you can keep the charges in the appropriate bucket. The transportation information, we'll look at the ship method either on the order header or on the line item level, but StarShip can also do value translations on that or ship via rules. So if you want to have StarShip override the ship via code either based on some preset business rules based on the weight or the type of customer, preferred rates going to a certain zone, we can automatically override the default ship method and pick a different carrier for you. You'll also see the transit time displayed here, so you have some clue as to when the product will get there by. On the packaging side, we've added some additional functionality surrounding all of the dimensional weight changes that went into effect back in January for both UPS and FedEx. And we've also had a number of customers look at the post office as an alternative to kind of circumvent all those dimensional weight changes. We do have a database here of all of your different types of packing material, so you can put in your different types of containers, and we store the weight and dimensions with those here. We've also added support for Cubiscan scales, where StarShip can scan the package as it goes through the scanner and capture the length, width, and height in real time, and it'll compare that against the actual weight of the product inside the box. So I don't have the scale hooked up here where I can show you, but we can demonstrate that functionality by putting these items into containers, and then we can take a look at the difference in price. So we'll go ahead and pick a box where we have the dimensions stored. And you can see a wide variance here, even though there's 5 pounds of material inside the box. Based on the size of the container, that calcs out to 23.6 pounds, or UPS or FedEx would rate that at 24 pounds. So pretty big discrepancy in price. If you're only capturing the actual weight of the box, you'll end up getting dinged with the variance in price, as well as an accessorial fee for them having to adjust that for you. I'll go ahead and put this second one in a box with dimensions as well. Once you have it all packed up, when you are ready to process, you have your controls up here in the control panel, or you have keyboard shortcuts so you could operate the program with a scanner. Just have a barcode to scan, to save, to print, to rate shop. If you want to do a cost comparison, you have the $ here in the toolbar. You can click on that. That'll call out to all your various carriers and give you a list of rates that you can choose from. StarShip also has a browser-based rating utility, and this could be bolted on to order entry or CRM. If you're running Dynamics GP 2013 or 2015, we've built hooks into sales order processing already. So you have that here, allowing your front office staff access to the rate comparison so you can look at all the various carriers. Or you have access to that on the client as well here. And that allows you to sort by the price, the transit time, or the carrier and service level. We'll go ahead and stick with the selected next day air service that came over from the GP ship method, because we know the customer needs it next day. We'll process this here. That'll print our labels, our documents, packing lists, and then we'll also push that data back into GP so we have it there for customer service purposes. So you'll see a preview here of your labels, your packing list. You have multiple formats that StarShip can produce. You can also brand these labels with your own company information, logos, any reference fields that you want to include with the documents. They're fully customizable. And you have both laser and thermal formats. PDF versions of the documents as well are available. So that opens up the option to create custom email notifications. You have the ability to, of course, use the carrier services that are included from the carrier, but then if you are brand conscious and you want to include your information on there, you can insert a logo, add tables of information. You can plug in blocks of text or any of the fields available from our database to kind of customize the email. You also have the ability to include attachments. So any of the shipping documents, like a bill of lading, export documentation, packing list, all of that could be included with a ship notification if you want to include attachments. You also have another front office utility with StarShip. That's the dashboard. That opens up options for you to do lookups for users that might not be inside of Dynamics GP. So you get this with the license as well. And this is more of a front office utility where users can go in and have visibility to all the shipping records. You have access to history here, and you can do lookups by any of the common GP fields like the PO number, the invoice, the order number, customer ID, to easily track down and find your shipment. You have the ability to track the shipments from here, access to all the package level tracking data, all of your item information, quantities and products, and a breakdown of the charges that were assessed, including any kind of handling fees. You have these widgets here that give you some performance indicators based on user, location, number of carriers, your top 5 customers, some predefined sorts that are built into the database to kind of drill down into the data, as well as crystal reports here. Those are built into the dashboard as well. So that opens up the option for other users within the organization to have visibility to the StarShip data. There are some lookups on the client itself, but probably most importantly, all that data is going to flow back into GP, so you have visibility to it from the order or invoice level. So we'll take a look at that here. So 4 main areas that we're updating when writing back into GP. You have the order header comments here, and you can customize that to have whatever level of detail you'd like. Any field available within the StarShip system can be inserted into the notes here. We'll give you some basic information out of the box: when it went out, when it's going to get there, how it was shipped, the number of pieces, how the billing was handled if you're using third-party or collect billing, and then a breakdown of essentially the packing list, the package level tracking and all the products and quantities that were shipped. And if you have existing information in the notes, we'll just append to that. You can see there's a header and a footer that we'll insert. If you do partial shipments, we'll continue to append that note as well. The batch ID can be used to nudge this further along in your workflow. So we have it set to move everything that's been shipped to a shipped batch, but you can set that as a preference however you want to tag the batch on the right back. Your freight will go here to the freight field. That can include any kind of handling fees or discounts that you want to work in as conditions, or instances where you may not want to charge freight. And you have the tracking information that'll go back to the tracking table here. So you'll have a tracking number for each and every package that you ship. If it's freight, then you'll see the pro number or your bill of lading number appear in this field. We can also update all of the user-defined fields, so you can pull information from any of these, either from the order header, the item level, the customer card, any place within GP that you may want to store that information. There's also SQL tools with StarShip, so if you're using GP Extender, we can get to any of that data as well. All right, that just about wraps up what I had prepared to share with everyone today. Adrian, if you want to hand it over to the next presenter.
Thank you, Chris. And Jim, you should have a presentation.
Okay, I am here and just wanted to do a check, make sure you guys can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your
Can
screen.
you see that okay, Adrian?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to go in full screen mode. And we're going to wrap up here. So they saved me for last. I don't know if that's by choice, but we're going to show you how everything you've done up to this point in GP, now you got to get paid on it, right? You've shipped it, you've extended credit terms to customers, you got your sales tax all compliant and in a good, happy place. But you know, really the one area where a lot of companies, especially the GP companies we work with, struggle is getting paid on time. You know, most companies we work with, they're getting paid on average in about 60 days on average in that 30 terms. You know, where I come from, that 30 means that 30 doesn't mean pay us when you feel like it. So that's why we developed Anytime Collect. And what I'm going to show you here is how easy it is for us to collect on that invoice that was created out of GP, along with all of the great information that was added along the way from Avalara with the sales tax calculations, as well as a lot of the information that was created within StarShip. Okay, so what happens with our application, a little bit different. It's not a desktop app. It's 100% cloud-based or web-based application. And we run a data synchronization that will go out to the GP database. It's going to pull down on a scheduled basis all the new information. So you know, we just saw Chris created the invoice, created the shipping documents. On the schedule then, that's going to bring in those customers and all those transactions, payments, invoices, etc., into our application. And then what's going to happen is once we do the data sync, everything's going to get aged, right, because things continue to age out there. And then we have a rules engine that we help you configure that basically creates a list of actions or things that you need to do as a collector. And for any of you Seinfeld fans out there, I'm logged in as Art Vandelay, importer-exporter of latex products extraordinaire. And Art Vandelay has a couple things that are on his list. You can see he's got notifications of customers that are high risk with a late balance. He's got 66 customers that require a fourth collection call. There's a couple here that I want to bring your attention to. The first is future dated invoice. I don't know if any of you guys caught that when Chris was doing his demonstration. The invoice itself that was created was future dated in 2017. So what I've done within Anytime Collect was I created a rule that evaluated the invoices and said if it's greater than a period of time, give me a notification because I typically don't have a future dated invoice. Okay. So this the software is telling me review this to ensure that the invoice date is correct, as this is more than 1 year from the current date. Okay, so I can go ahead and do that. The other thing that I did on that same exact transaction was I created a rule that said if this customer, Aaron Fitz, Electrical, requires a purchase order to be included on the invoice, and we synchronize an invoice in from Dynamics GP, and the PO field is blank, I want a notification of that. And that's what I've got here. So now I can drill in. If I want to, I can go ahead and start working on these collection activities. It could be that the invoice is due in 3 days. I need to make that first call. Whatever that process happens to be, the software will trigger me to do that. Or in some cases, like if this was a reminder, I could have the software automatically send an email to the customer saying, you have this invoice, it is due in the next 3 days, there's a balance due. Or by the way, here's a copy of the invoice and the supporting documents, maybe the bill of lading, packing slip, etc. But I'm going to go ahead and drill in on this customer, and I'm going to open a new communication because I got to call them and find out, did they really want this thing future dated to 2017, or was that just a data entry error on our end? Let the GoToMeeting catch up to us here. So one of the things you'll see is we do have the company ID. We are a multi-company, multi-ERP. So let's say, I know today we're focusing on Dynamics GP, but you may have sister companies, subsidiaries running Oracle, SAP, a Sage product, QuickBooks. It don't matter to us. We can connect to multiple data sources, GP being one of them. We pull down that data. You can work on multiple accounts across companies, across ERP platforms. So I can see Aaron Fitz Electrical here. You see the notification that we had a invoice missing a PO. And then from here, I'm probably going to make a phone call and find out, what happened here. Maybe I need to get the PO number from them. You can see with all the types of activities, you can have procedures. There's basically instructions on how to perform this activity. Could be a full-blown call script, could be talking points, could be ways to handle disputes. Really whatever instructions you want to provide to your credit collections team. Okay. From here now, let's go ahead and view the contacts. We're going to go ahead and make a phone call. And we see here that we have a very unique contact here. We have Happy Dancing River, who happens to be our primary contact here. So we're going to give Happy a call. Go ahead and add them to the contact notes, make the call. You can see there with a Skype plugin, I could have clicked on that link and use Skype for my phone call. I'm going to do the old-fashioned way. I'm going to dial for dollars, make that call, mark that I'm speaking or spoke with the customer, and then I can put in some information here. PO number is 15678 or whatever it happens to be. We send invoices and supporting documents, and she will pay online. Okay, so whatever notes you have on your calls you can mark here. Since there was a dispute because that PO was missing, I could go ahead and tag this invoice to this communication. Let's me go back later on and find out all the times I talked to a customer about a particular invoice. I can also click on the invoice itself here and mark this as being in dispute. Missing PO happens to be one of the things I've set up. You can create as many reason codes as you want to manage, really from an analysis standpoint, what's in dispute and what do I need to do next. We can trigger workflow and rules around this as well. So it is in dispute. We'll put the dispute date on it, put a dispute amount, if there's a dispute amount. And then you can leave this out there. The software then can manage this with a different workflow, maybe escalate it to somebody that only handles invoices that have a missing PO, or maybe there's a billing rate issue or a freight rate issue. Once that's resolved, you'll come in, you'll mark it as resolved and put a resolution date on it. Go ahead and update that record. And the next thing, she said that if we send her those documents and fix that, we're going to go ahead and make a promise to pay. So let's say that the amount on that is $500. We expect that payment by the end of the month. If they promise to pay, what's going to happen is the software is going to look at GP and all the data that we're synchronizing frequently, and it's going to say on 6/30, Aaron Fitz Electrical did not make a payment. They promised to pay. So over here on the right, we're going to get a broken promise to pay that'll trigger us then for a follow-up. And there happens to be 3 out here already. Next thing I'm going to do with the customer is I want to go ahead and I want to attach maybe the tagged invoice, make sure they do in fact have the copy, because even though there's 18 ways to send it out as GP, and you saw how Chris could send out a lot of the shipping documents, sometimes we just need to make sure they got them. We're also going to do a mail merge document. We have different versions out there. Maybe I want to send them a past due notice or an open invoice report or a collection letter. You can translate these. You can create your own versions. You might have 3 different dunning letters that you send out. Let's go ahead and do an open invoice report. Go ahead and attach that. I'll have to go to meeting catch up. There we go. We'll go to the email tab. We're going to pick Happy Dancing River here. Put in the subject line, please review and pay online. We then are going to come over here and pick a template. You can create these emails. You can create them off of templates. I like templates. It saves a lot of time. Just pick one. It's going to pre-populate. You can edit these, and we're done. Now from here, if I wanted to set a follow-up, maybe I need to escalate this to my manager for something. You can go ahead and mark follow-up, schedule things for other people. But for the most part, I'm done. So I'm going to simply resolve this issue. Yep, I know it's not marked complete. When I do that and I save and send, my list of actions, this was my missing PO, would go down from 3 to 2. And that's kind of my workflow, so I know what have I done and what do I have yet to do. So go ahead and save and send that. That's going to send the email out to the customer. I'll go ahead and look at that here. So if I go over to Gmail and pretend for a second that I am Miss Happy Dancing River, we will see that we have an email that comes out. There's the attachment. There's the invoice. They can reply. We integrate with Microsoft Outlook Exchange, really any email system that's out there. So if the customer replies back, it'll come back into the software automatically, and you'll have a notification of unread email. You can see here that the customer can also click a hyperlink. I'm not going to show it to you today, but this would take the customer optionally to a secure portal where they can view their statement of account online and actually make a payment via ACH or credit card. Which would then come back into our application, and those payments then could be imported or entered into Microsoft Dynamics GP. Okay. Go back over to the software. We're going to wrap up here a little bit. On the account info screen itself, you'll see a couple things. Number one, you'll see we have the statement of account for Aaron Fitz Electrical. There is that invoice. Maybe we need to set up a payment plan on that. We have the ability to do that here. So we could go ahead and break out this $365 charge, pick a date. Maybe they're going to pay $170 up front. And the balance of that they're going to pay on 7/18. Okay, so we do handle payment plans and things like that. You will also see that we have folder icons both at the account level as well as at the invoice level. Some of those documents that Chris created from StarShip, you can either manually add them at the invoice level, or you may want to have this set up so that it's automated. And what we can do is we can pull in supporting documents into our application. So that bill of lading and that packing list that Chris created can be attached at the invoice level. Maybe those are documents that the customer requires in order to make a payment. It could be a copy of their purchase order, right? We talked about that earlier. So you can store documents externally, which makes them available on the customer portal. You may have other documents internal, probably not the invoice level, but maybe at the account level, things like a credit report, credit review documentations, contracts, etc. Okay. You'll see a full history of all the communication that have occurred with the customer. This one here, you can see we made the phone call, we tagged invoices, we had expected payment, we sent an email. We can also see general account notes. Aaron Fitz is the owner. Happy Dancing River. Nice gal, ask her about her cats. So you can make all the notes you want about the contacts and accounts internally. And then really just a last couple points here on the collection side. One, you'll see that Aaron Fitz up here is highlighted in yellow. The reason they're in yellow is we also have some functionality to help you manage account credit. I'll let that load up here. You'll see that they have a credit score of 76. You can define different ranges for credit scores. This one happens to indicate it's a moderate credit risk customer, therefore it's highlighted in yellow. If it was a lower credit score, they would be highlighted in red. And we have just a lot of information around the customer, when were they established, their currency, days past terms, their credit terms, do I allow them to make online payments, where are they located. We also have user-defined fields. We use this a lot in distribution and manufacturing industries that both Avalara and StarShip do very well in. So if you have things like a pro number or a shipment or a carrier, we can pull that kind of information into a user-defined field. We have them available at the account level, contacts, invoices, payments, payment applications, and other areas. We do also support national accounts. If you have parent-child relationships, you can see that as well. History, you always want to see average days late by the size of the invoice. How many times have they had a broken promise to pay or had a dispute from 90 days out to 2 years, and the current aging. You see the contacts. You can see notes on the contacts. Favorite cats or Moonbeam and Revolution, always good talking points when you're talking to Happy Dancing River. You can also see which contacts are going to be included in the automated email, things like reminders that go out. And then last but not least, you're going to see the transactions that have occurred. So this is one invoice, no payments. Really, just a couple other points I want to cover. One is the dashboard. The dashboard really provides a summary of everything that's happening in credit collections. It'll show you financial information. It'll show you collection activities. So things like projected cash receipts based on your customer payment history, average days late trend, current days sales outstanding. Worth mentioning here, most companies, when they implement our software within the first year, are getting right around a 20% decrease in DSO. For you non-accounting types, what that really means is they're getting paid 20% faster. So if your average DSO today is at 60, 20% is 12 days faster. That's a pretty significant increase to your bottom line and your access to working capital. Now, lots of other information, cash summary, what's expected, what did we receive, average days late by the size of the invoice, top customers, this is the who has my money list, and then what did this collector actually do for the week or last week. Last but not least, we do have inquiries by user, so you can go in and look at information, maybe it's by invoice or group of invoices. We also have alerts you can create that can notify other people of what's happening. Maybe with that missing purchase order, it was something that happened in the shipping side, or maybe it was in the warehouse or customer service. You can set up your users as inquiry users so they can receive weekly or daily alerts with hyperlinks to access this information within the software. So that's, I think I covered more than my 5 points that Adrian highlighted here. Get paid faster, hopefully you see that. Resolve invoice disputes faster. Reduce financing costs because you're doing a lot of this stuff internally. You don't have to go out and secure a short-term loan. Maximize your unused credit lines. We can have alerts and reports based on that. And as far as increasing efficiency, almost every single company that implements our software, they're able to do a lot more with a lot less because of the automation. So with that, I'm going to kick it back over to Adrian.
Thank you, Jim and Chris and John. That's an excellent presentation. Really appreciate it. I'm just going to go through real quick the workflow that we all just saw. The orders taken in Microsoft Dynamics sales order, Microsoft Dynamics GP sales orders as generated, that sales order travels over to Avalara for automated sales tax compliance, and then the sales order is updated in GP. That sales order goes into StarShip for automated shipping based on all the components of the shipment, delivery time, cost, etc. The ideal carrier is selected. That invoice is now created since the shipment has shipped, and then that automatically is indicated in Anytime Collect for collections. So I just wanted to remind the audience of the workflow. I'm going to leave everyone with the contact information as we go through the questions, and I also want to select a couple polls here for the audience. If you could just take a moment to, and I see that Jim is still the presenter. Let me make myself the presenter so you can see my screen. Here we go. There we are. Okay, so we have a couple questions here. For a customer to pay their invoice via portal, is that something that we already need to have set up, or would you be able to help us set up a portal using Anytime Collect? Thank you, Nicole. And Jim?
That's a great question. We do integrate with a number of different merchant providers. So if you're working with First Data or really anyone, we can work with them. We do have a couple companies we work with quite extensively. There's a company locally to us called SoluPay, very competitive on the credit card rates. So if you want to set up the portal, we can certainly work with you and them to be able to configure the system so that your customers have that capability. And then on the back end, make sure that you're protected from a PCI compliance standpoint with those online payments.
And I just want to remind the audience that I have a poll up on the screen. If you could just take a moment to answer this question, are you interested in learning more about sales tax compliance automation? We really appreciate your answer to that. And John, if we are audited, does Avalara protect us in an audit?
Avalara has an internal professional services team, and we do offer audit assistance at varying levels, and that is something that we discuss with our customers. A lot of the customers that we have. So another thing to note about our professional services team is it is an exclusive team for customers with Avalara. We don't service people who aren't live with us as an Avalara customer. But they do offer varying levels of support, and that's something that we work with our customers to see exactly what their needs are.
And let me close this poll out and then launch another. If I could just ask the audience just to take a moment to answer this poll, that would be great. Are you interested in learning more about shipping automation? And if you do have any questions, I want to remind the audience, if you could just click on that question mark button, a dialog box will open up and you can indicate your question and we can read your question for the presenters. We really appreciate you spending time with us today. You know that an hour is hard to come by, so we hope you have found this presentation educational. And I do have a hand raised. Carol, I'm going to attempt to unmute your line and hopefully we can speak live. Carol? Okay, it looks like that might have been a mistake. I have my mic and speakers for you, Carol. We do have a question from Alan. So, Alan, where is the StarShip dashboard located? Thank you, Alan. And Chris?
Sure. It'll be in the program folder if you've installed the client. So you can find it under an entry that says Web Utilities.
And how is StarShip different from ShipGear, Chris?
So think of ShipGear as more or less the lighter version of what V Technologies offers. It's an interface that would connect GP in with the UPS WorldShip or FedEx Ship Manager programs. So you have essentially the carrier software that is typically standalone, and you use ShipGear to pass the order data back and forth. So you have just those two carriers. Presently, there's basically order header information that transfers between the two systems, whereas StarShip can give you item level detail or has those SQL tools that can move additional data back and forth if you're using Extender or other data sources, such as SalesPad or CRM or your shopping cart that you may want to integrate as well. StarShip also supports LTL or freight carriers, whereas ShipGear is parcel only. If you're running GP in the cloud and you want to move your shipping application there as well, then StarShip will run natively on a server and supports terminal services or Citrix for remote desktop connections. The carrier software is typically a desktop install, so it's really more of an on-premises type of solution.
And I just want to remind the audience, we do have our very last poll up. If you could just take a minute to answer this last poll. Are you interested in learning more about accounts receivable collections automation? I see 42%, now 50% have voted. So if you could just take a second to answer that one. And Jim, what is the process of implementing Anytime Collect?
Another great question. We got a good audience here today. The process is pretty simple. The first step is, we'll obviously go through the evaluation, make sure we got a good fit to begin with, because the last thing we want to do is sell something where it's not going to meet your needs. So we like to understand that up front. Once we do that, then we'll actually, one of our application consultants will contact you and your team and walk through the administrative side of the training. So we'll configure the data sync with GP. It's a standard sync that we built. But we do need things like the SA password to the GP database. We'll need to set up users, give them privileges in the software, customize the templates, really set up the system to meet your needs. That process can take anywhere from 4 hours to a couple days, depending on how complex you get with the rules engine, which can get really, really complex if you let it. And then after that, we come back and we do end user training. Which really takes a couple hours at most. The software's pretty intuitive to learn. So all in, you're looking at anywhere from a day up to maybe a couple days, maybe at the higher end a week worth of consulting and implementation services to make sure that the software's set up to meet your specific business needs and goals.
And I am going to go ahead and close out this poll and then end the presentation with the contact information for each presenter so that you all can see that. Let me expand my screen here. So you see Avalara, StarShip, and Anytime Collect contact information. I am recording this, so we will be following up via email with the recording in a YouTube link. And we also have many, many other recordings on our YouTube channel. If you care to take a look, it's youtube.com/ERPVAR. And we have many, many different applications that are available to take a look on our YouTube channel. And thank you to all the speakers for your great presentation. We really appreciate your time. In addition, audience, we know that we know that time is hard to come by. So we also, I just want to remind you, we really appreciate you spending time with us today.